Good morning to everybody here. So we are going to continue with our teaching on transforming suffering and happiness. Up until now, we have looked at, or we are currently looking at, the qualities or the positive aspects of suffering. Yesterday, we covered the first three, and we are now going to talk about the fourth positive aspect.
나초 지바트 강레지나 티니 지바트는 티니 소소랑가 토라 등거용나 디 등거도 티 용이 짐성 강레지나 소소랑가 당가마 머기와 시바타 든지가 레가 톱거티니 종거래 데나 등거도 용이 값스 티니 레티 말 잔조래 데나랑가 득파 머기와 잔조래 삼니다 든지 삼콘도지 소소라 등거 용이 값스 아우타 등거 용나 등거데라 티니 나랑 그 머기와 나마스바 탐치 잔조레 쫑고 마레 삼니 디고 고니 가와 곰고온도스.
So this fourth positive aspect of suffering is using suffering to purify harmful actions. So this entails us appreciating that when suffering takes place or arises, that the reason for this is unvirtuous activities or acts that we have done in the past. And it's a result of this negative karma that has led to our current suffering. Now we have the opportunity to go about purifying it. So we should think that when suffering comes upon us, well, I can use this instance of suffering to purify my past negative karma, and on this basis have a like for the suffering.
상마 용수 조바 치치 총총 상마 되는 가서 나마 기와 나마 되니 레가 왕가 숑바 어레지나 되니 대 이바요 마레지 때 가서 소화가 나라 되니 다 드머 지금 종나 때랍셔당 되니 기스킨 담다 mambo요레.
Does this mean then that all of the various kinds of suffering that happen in our lives, whether great or small, are all the result of our past negative karma? Well, this is not necessarily the case. Different kinds of suffering have their own causes and conditions.
예나 다가 좀 소화나라 중에 지금 등을 때지 침부 거도 되니 아마가 되니 레도 고 숑바레즈.
However, generally, we consider larger forms of suffering in our life to be the result of negative karma in past lives.
되니 직대 레리 되니 직대 가서 다스다가 되니 소화가 나라요. 등물음 종나데 등물음 종와라 지킨 요리 되니 때 니가레스.
So, on the one hand, the causes for our suffering are firstly, our past karma, and then secondly, the various causes and conditions that come together in our present lives.
베나가초데니 카버그나라데니 까자니나 데니 가초 무금 통하여 발라바 은지야요 바거데니 카버티 트차코랑 데니 고레 데스지레즈.
네, 연저소네 조칸불라.
카버그나라 까자니나 데니도 다 무스티니 카버 코랑 트차가서 락바가 존 트비아가 카버트 담보 고레즈 치드터레 기킨 치드터레즈 가타냐야
치즈데니 기킨 담보딩가 소데니 카바 고거와
고레 셔단티니 카버가나 다냐나 기킨 mambo 고레 디나네 치드티니 다 트차 코랑 고레스.
So if we take the example of listening to somebody speaking in a telephone, there are different causes and conditions that need to be in place for us to be able to do this. The first of these is the telephone itself.
Teni ni nga so muk tinim thoya me pa ga tini teni khabar ga tinim chunda te yang ta go res.
But aside from the actual phone that we can see with our own two eyes, we also need the phone signal, which is not able to be perceived by our eyes.
Teni tiniki na ni chigmena teni ngaso janyan thap ko mares.
Without either of these two things, the actual phone and the imperceptible phone signal, we wouldn't be able to listen to the sound.
Teni technika te yo tsati teni ngaso tazo teni janyan thap ko wazi nawa nala.
So it's only when they both come together that we are actually able to listen to the phone or listen to someone speaking in it.
Teni te dang japore ngatsun chowa nala teni dewa yona dungur yona tela teni ngatsu mukum thongya ga teni jiskin dang teni mukum mamthong wi jiskin mamboz yores.
And it's the same with various kinds of happiness and suffering that crop up in our lives. There are causes and conditions that we can see with our own eyes and causes and conditions that we can't.
Yina ngatsu me mamboz ka ta ngatsu koranga mukum thongya ga teni jiskin te ma to ba jamba yo mare samni teni samgo yores.
But there are some people who think that the only causes and conditions are the ones that they can see with their eyes, and beyond these, they don't think there are any others. But it's not as simple as that. There are many contributing causes and conditions.
Teni te dang rapo pe na nga tsu teni olok la sam lok tang da nga tsu teni olok chigin na teni ngus nga tsu ndaran thongwi teni olok tang olok teni te olok do da taso la teni wote yung ga dozi ngusum thongwa.
Another example would be the light, the ceiling light. When we look at it, we see the light itself and the light bulb, and think these are the things that allow us to see the light.
Yena nga tsu teni olok teni shertok chigbola chigbo tes chigbola teni olok ngod yung tabgo ya mares.
However, purely in reliance on the light bulb, we wouldn't be able to, the light wouldn't be emitted or able to be emitted.
Teni nga tsu tarambo zela yopi teni te olok kanga nani teni olok te seri yung gonduz. Fa dian chang.
In addition to this, we need the power or the electricity to be supplied from a distant power generation station.
Teni nga tsu nyuk muk riksana yopi teni olok shirtok ndada. Teni jang rambo na yopi teni olok kang teni ten zomni teni nga tsu olok to yung yores.
So it's only by having the light bulb that is very proximate to us and the distant supply of electricity, when these two come together, that we are able to have a functioning light.
Teni te dang rapo teni nga tsu sem ka nang la ina lipo ko thola ina dungmur yung na teni chikti nga tsu teni chowa ka nang la sosorang ka penam chostini ina dra teni korla teni mandrik pa teni yore teni jirchin chikta teres.
When we consider suffering of the mind and suffering of the body, there are many different causes and conditions too. One of these is our overall state of health or hygiene.
Teni nipata teni jangrambo zene tega teni ngaso lega teni ta pena kewa kongma yang lo japchak lo tongchak teni mambo zela ngaso le teni sayo pi ti nipata tarta yongo yore ti nikala teni dungmer njongo yores.
And a more remote factor is our past karma, whether karma accumulated in a past life or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, the power or the force generated by this karma. It's only when both of these things come together, our past karma and our current situation of health, that we have or experience different kinds of suffering.
Teni te nika te gore mato teni kina ni chingmena nga so dungmer nyong tap ka banduz.
Both of these factors need to come together. If one of them is missing, then we wouldn't experience suffering.
Teni indi ta tari nga so teni dungmer nyong na ta ngarang ka lete mar teni zanjo re samne teni samko nduz.
So when we do experience suffering, we should think, I'm going to use this suffering to purify my past karma.
Teni ta ngapa teres ngapa.
And now we come to point 5.
Ngapa teni nga so teni dugpa di dungmer sem ko thola dungmer yong wi kaps teni nga so gewa la teni thapar to teni gabo 갑주 용거래지 게와라 셈거나라 가보다 쪼보든지 용거래.
So when suffering comes upon us, we should use this as a chance to be very joyous about doing positive or virtuous action.
대가래지나 되니다 등물 리보 돌아요나 야나 셈거 돌아요나 소소라 냠린 약보 게와 약보 메나 되니다 등물제야 되니다 무스치게 온도그 말에 못 탐치 볼라들이 까블레 카보 되니 용거래지 냠린 다 게와 약보 메나.
The reason for this is that when suffering takes place, whether it's physical or mental suffering, if we are not sound practitioners or do not soundly cultivate virtue, then the experience of suffering is very difficult.
되니 가서 냠린 라뜨가 때니 냠린 집이 값스 되니 등물이 있나요? 되니 등물 때니 등물 침보 매바당 되니 등물 라뜨니 가와 되니 용탑 그래지 대 용탑바데 코로나랑 하고 용 그래지 디 값스
지 연자소나 직접바 칸볼라
게와티니 드피 값스 게와티니 드므나티니 다 냠린 게와라 테니 티니 등물 메바데 등물 사마티니 데와 자오티니 렌도와티 티니 코로나 냠린 그 고니 하고 요 레지 디 값스.
If one is a practitioner, then through practice, one is able, when suffering takes place, to convert it into happiness. And it's through practice that one understands this.
Teni dumur to teni gewa nyamlin la teni dumur te teni to ta dumur mepa teni gawa teni yemba te hako yundi. Teni gewa la gayong gore pena nga so nat navi kapse teni man thona ti man la te teni te sosorang nat te changro te shiundi teni man te la lakpo gayong go wa te dang rapo reze.
So in knowing then that positive action, engaging in positive action is able to both reduce suffering and generate happiness, then one comes to like suffering. It's like medicine, again, that is able to cure an illness or cure our illness. In knowing that the medicine is able to cure our illness, we naturally come to like the medicine.
당아서 리보고 돌아 심고 돌아 등을 딘지 용이 값스 되니 냠린 맹큰 그 뭐지 있나 되니 리보라 있나 데 심고 돌아 등을 오나 디 등을 띠더니 거랑라데 식긴 침보테 거랑건 소알라 식긴 테 되니 거랑건 레가라 식긴 테 되니 까블리 캄보 멍보 용 거래.
For a person who doesn't engage in practice, a non-practitioner, then suffering when it arises, whether it be physical or of the mind, has a great detrimental impact on their life in general, on their work lives, etc., and in general brings them a great deal of difficulty.
되니 다리 아주 냠린데 요비 염선지 되니 등물이나 되니 등물 그 소소라 시킨 팁 맡아봐. 소소온 소알라양 시킨 맡아. 되니 소소 레가라양 되니 시킨 맡아. 되니 소소 심금 거나라양 시킨 맡아니 되니 약보즈 용야데 강거디니 되니 니파레즈나데 게와 니파레 소소 냠린 거 니파레즈. 되니 테 하고 이 값스 되니 소소 게와라 하버 가보 용 그래즈.
However, through practice, it's through our practice that it is possible for suffering not to cause us detrimental impact, whether on our working lives or our lives in general or our overall state of psychological well-being. The reason for this is the power of virtue or of doing positive acts. And because it is through the practice of through it is the virtue that is generated by our practice which carries the power for suffering not to detrimentally impact in these ways. So on this basis, we develop a liking for doing positive acts.
Teni tinri indi dumur te yona, teni dumur te ngatsola kalmapshi kereze, kalmapshi ni teni gewa dripala teni thabartam bapashia. O tinri indi teni dumurti teni ngatsola gewa dripala teni kalmatong kereze.
So for this reason, suffering gives us encouragement. It gives us the encouragement to practice and do positive acts.
Teni shirtang ngatso muzgla teni samlo tangnan chua nala teni kavle ta dumur ta teni chijang mene dewa ta teni yena te ngatso samala gabu yogo yoreze matsama teni tela gagare tela yenhun shegereze.
Generally speaking, everyone very much likes and admires, appreciates a life that is free from difficulty and suffering and full of happiness.
Teni soso ranga teni soa nala kable me dungur me ne teni te soa kibo teni zikangala teni ta ne thamna sambati matso mi chama ga teni jindote chama ga teni ta yemun chama ga rewa reze.
And to abide happily in a life without difficulty or mishap is the hope or aspiration of everyone.
Teni ngatso tichu thongthong go nala tana teni te reze ta ngatso demo ki poyona te gang doze tichu thongthong nigyang thongthong la tana.
If we are looking at things from a short-term perspective, then yes, we would say it is preferable that we have a life where no suffering exists.
Teni te tse nigyang rambun ra otana teni ngatso soa na la kable jiang me pa te yakpo yimbi ngipa yo mareze.
However, if we take a more long-term perspective, then a life with no difficulty whatsoever is not necessarily preferable.
Teni yakpo yinda mayinte teni soso rang la nyamling yo me la thung jo re.
Whether or not such a life would be considered positive or negative or preferable or less preferable depends on whether one has a foundation in practice.
Teni karte nyamling yakpo mena ta ngatson chowa na la teni demo ki bonda o te yongna teni chowa na la yopi demo ki po tela jin tela chagne teni ngatso ta tinala par ngong khorne.
If someone doesn't have a foundation in practice, then a life of pure happiness would lead them to become extremely attached to this kind of lifestyle, and they would become very confused by this lifestyle or life of pure happiness.
Ti kaptela se teni kaptela teni soso teni ta chorwa kipun rao o chorwa dewa rao teni yungu reta yena teni ta ti chorwa dewa tela yeni tasipo thola nding ke ma to teni soso rang yargi teni rovala teni no parin res.
So even though at that very moment the person in question is living a very happy and nice life, their attachment to this happy life leads them not to progress in themselves, and so in this way can be considered to harm them.
Teni gewa drbiata teso yang teni nyamli menkhen zena teni soso choa thola demo ki potenti yin charti teni tarang tang ne gewa drgo ndu sambao teni samlo ti jin res.
And so it's for this reason that for someone who is not a practitioner, that such a lifestyle leads them to forget about the need or to forget engaging in positive action.
Ota tinji indi ngatsun choa nangla tinji dumur te yona tini te ta dugbore sane par tini gaya lot. So
So the thought that a bit of suffering in life is undesirable, and therefore a desire to resist suffering, is a way of thinking that ultimately is harmful to us.
Teni dungmer chongzut drapo tinti yongna ngaso kharsang ya shasong ta ngaso chuwa nangla dungmer hale pa chimbo yongna ta ngaso tarta teni tarong nyamling ga thola teni yarji yung matsirwi kapsi yinna teni te kamore te la jarka thongona kamore yinna chuwa ga nangla dungmer te chongchong rawo teni chongzut yona te nguni tang jangrang bola samlo ta na yakbo reze.
So as we said yesterday, in terms of suffering, well, very large or serious forms of suffering, if our practice has not yet been made extremely firm, then this is rather difficult for us to cope with. It's rather difficult for us to achieve victory in respect of this kind of suffering. However, in terms of small forms of suffering, then taking a long-term perspective, they are ultimately good for us.
Teni dungmer tang kanger o teso la teni nga so mo la teni to kelma thimne yarji in ro re ma to pa dungmer la teni mar jirdig lan ro te nyong ro re nyamling yona tele kyang yarji ro re.
Suffering and hardship, in fact, give us encouragement. They impel us to progress. It's not the case that they lead us to decline. And particularly for practitioners, suffering and hardship leads to progress.
Teni ti thola nga so teni ta dungmer yona teni ngarang ge gewar jpala teni ta bapa chegre te na nga dungmer te yona yak bore samni tinri chini tanglim she gore.
So in this way, then, when suffering takes place, we need to think to ourselves, I will be diligent in my practice of positive actions, and on this basis accept the suffering.
Teni te ngabati rindu ngabati teri teni chigparis.
So that's the fifth positive aspect, and now we move on to the sixth.
This
sixth point is extremely important. And the reason for this is that when suffering takes place, it is we need to use this suffering in order to cultivate compassion for other beings. So through suffering comes compassion, but through suffering also comes anger. Whether suffering generates compassion or anger depends on our practice. For a person who is not a practitioner, then when suffering comes upon them, they think, oh, others have been unfair, they've treated me poorly, and this has given rise to my suffering. My suffering is connected to others, and on this basis feel very angry.
ngarang la tini shisuk di ngarang la yakbo chega madik yana ngarang ka phama ngarang la yakbo chega madik yana ngarang ka chobo yakbo chega madik samni suso ger ka nala sem ka nala mahkepa mambo yong gore ji chungsani.
If we look at it on a individual perspective, a small-scale perspective, we can also see that suffering in people's minds, causes anger. They often regard society as having been unfair to them, their parents as having mistreated them, their friends as not being good to them. And in this way, suffering leads to a lot of individual unhappiness.
Teni chesani teni ta zambolang ka thola nyokta mambo yonji te soyo tendi samlola teni yongu yoris.
And on a large scale, a global scale, we can see all the various troubles that take place.
Tendi indi ngaso dungri yona yinjig menjig tini to nyarji chegere tase maris dungri yona susorala dungri yon kaps nyarji chegi ngipa yo maris.
So we're not saying that when suffering takes place, it automatically gives rise to compassion.
Teni kanti se yoris na nyamlin yona teni nyarji yo kaps teni indi dungri yon kaps teni nyarji chegere.
What is being said is that if we practice, then suffering is able to generate compassion.
Ota tendi indi tini susuranga thola tini to dungro yong kapse lig thola dungro yona te sem ko thola dungro yona kang yona tini ti kapse mi jalla tini te nyarji yakpo tini chethap kore.
So when suffering takes place, whether it be suffering of the body or of the mind, it is possible to use this suffering to generate compassion for others.
Tini tendi nyarji te la tini tini sosorang yarji to yapon ro thap kore.
And it's through this compassion that we are able to improve ourselves.
Kharsanga sukong de yang tini shayo tini so ti ta nga so perna so rang la ko thola dumur maybe kaps tini mi jamba so dumur la samlo mambo tang yo mares te samlo mo tang wi jimsenji tini mo janam la dumur kanti yo te mambo te ha ko mares so rang la dumur mena.
Yesterday we said we talked about how when we have not had experience of a particular kind of suffering, that we don't think about it, we don't give thought to it. And the reason that we don't understand or that we don't do this is because we don't know what it is like, this kind of suffering that others are experiencing.
Pena nga so tini chongchir ka nangla tini lam khala yandro mandro yana langkala yandro mandro tendi chini tini mambo tini ta thoi kaps ti kaps tini nga so musola tini ta navi dumur kanti yo chindi yen te nga so tini ta shig yo mareze.
When we're just going about our lives, traveling back and forth along the roads in the city, we see many people, but at this point we don't understand or have insight into the suffering that sick people undergo.
Te na nga so mangkhang na lan do ni chitana ti kaps tini ta chi mo chama na pa yim ban rawo tini na wa ti kaps tini na chi dumur Zeatin the Nizredu, Sambandao, Tini Susola, Semganala, Sorwa, the Nirtan Zabu, or Tini Yungan Wazi.
However, if we were to go to a hospital, we would we would gain the impression that everyone here is sick. They are all patients, and we would then be able to understand that their suffering is of this kind or is of this nature, and in this way we would gain a feeling of their suffering that is very deep.
Teni mangkang kanalan rowa lejang ta suso rang thola tini nat tindi yona ti telejang o ta nat tindi yona dingmer chimborendu samba de hakoyong kores.
And when one becomes sick oneself, then one understands even more acutely what it's like to be sick and to undergo the suffering of illness.
Teni ti kaps tini soso rang tini dingmer yona tini ta ngarang rang la dingmer de tini mena sambandao tini ta samlo tini yongores tini masatang sena tini ngarang dingmer de mena sambi samlo yongores.
But at times like this, the wish that, I wish this suffering weren't happening, I wish I didn't have it, arises. It arises for everyone.
Teni nyamlin te shinking ka mosi na teni ti kaps korang ka samlo tangare o ta ngarang la 등물 닌디 용이 값은 나랑 등물 때 메나 삼니 닌디 삼근도 와지 닌디 인디 드니 미 참마씩 바리지 미 참마가 닌디 삼거요리 무스던 세나 드니 소소랑 거 돌아 등물 용이 값스 나랑 그 등물데 메나 닌디 삼근 마토 바치경요 말에 삼니 이 거는 닌디 삼로 땅거리지 냠니 용케이나.
But for a practitioner, when they begin to give rise to this thought of wishing that they weren't suffering, then they give it a little bit more thought and realize that everyone thinks in exactly the same way. Where everyone, when they are sick or suffering, wishes that they weren't suffering. There is no one who doesn't, and so they are able to think in this way.
Teni ngarang tini dumur yong kapse tini ta dumur te mena samni tini rewa jab te yihmun shi teni she pa tarta tini jamba so tini she yo de nga so sang man jamnim re chiba re tini chiba indi te mi chama yo tini dumur mena samni tini ta dumur te mena te samni tini ti kapse tini so rang ga ta sam kare ngarang chibo dumur mena samba mayimba o mo chama la ta dumur me sona samni tini sem gun la Tendi te rewa zenandra, teni molum zenandra, o teni ndopa zenandra, te yungure zi nyamlin tezi shinkanzi yena.
But for a person who has some experience of practice, when they experience suffering themselves, they realize that everyone who experiences suffering also hopes in a similar way. They also desire to be free from suffering. So in realizing that everyone really thinks in the same way about this, they are able to understand everyone, all beings, as equal. And so with this comes a prayer or a hope or a desire for everyone to be free from suffering, not just oneself, but everyone to be free from suffering.
Teni nga tsum sidang siyena teni pe na mochola nad naji yore nad nawi ne kubna teni dungri yore samba tenra wozu mokong kenchi gyang mare te tsama ha go rezi tenra wo jimsen te mokong kenchi gyang mare.
So regardless of who it is, when sickness takes place, it leads to suffering. And chizu teni di nibi kapsu teni di donga yungare teni. Everybody understands that sickness causes suffering. This is something that there is no one who doesn't understand this.
Teni jini teni kakari nipa chimache pe teni te kyabar chimborez.
However, the understanding of this is completely different when one has personal embodied experience of the suffering. This insight into the suffering is of a completely different nature than when we have had no experience of it or direct experience of it ourselves. The two insights or understandings are completely different.
Teni tendi indi teni dumur te yong jana pini ti dumur te la teni nga su semchin la teni nyangji yakbu teni yong tab gre.
So for this reason, when suffering does arise, we can use it to generate compassion for other beings.
O te indi teni nyangji teni di dumur ke teni nga su la nyangji ke la teni karma tongres.
So we can say then that suffering provides us encouragement, or it impels us to generate compassion.
Teni namgin yinna teni semchin chama la teni nyarji ya bo che gore so ne ngarang so lama namgyang te nga chola song yores.
Usually, we talk about the need to be compassionate for all beings. Our lamas teach us this.
Teni pechan de so tana pechan de so thamba chimbo pechan de so nala tendi sheja yore semchin chama la nyangji go song yores.
And in Mahayana texts such as this, they teach us also that we should have compassion for all beings.
Teni lama dan chu pechachimpo matsa papena ngaso boba dazina teni amacho ina pochoncho la teni ta shirdang chimsang teni pume amacho yang teni labgare te sim pochoncho chola simchen samala nyaji gogore sone teni namjin teni songores.
And besides lamas and Mahayana texts in Tibet, ordinary mothers in ordinary families always tell their children that they should have compassion for all beings.
Tindi rete yinna tini ta ngaso la tini shikin tibna shikin chishudi kane yung gorezina soso nyamnyung ko thone o dumar soso rang nyamse nyong jana tani ti thone yung gores.
Even though all of these are the case, that which has the greatest impact or influence on us is when we have direct lived experience of suffering ourselves.
Teni suso teni dumur teni nyamse nyong jakbatela teni ngaso ti thola samlo yakbo tang shisona teni mesega nala teni ngerwa chimbo yung gores.
It's through direct lived experience of suffering like this, if we know how to think about it or approach it, that our lives can give rise to immense transformation.
Teni nyamlin shinken chikda nyamlin ma shinken chik mo nipo te teni to ndrapo shini nika te teni zongkang ka nangla teni ndagnas.
If a practitioner and a non-practitioner, say, were to both be in jail,
tani ti kapsa teni ta zongkang ka nangla teni ta dumur teni ta chowa ka thola ena teni rangwa mepa ka thone ena te yopate khorang nika ndrapo res.
And both, let's say, both practitioners were equal in terms of their suffering, whether it be suffering from life in prison or the suffering attendant with the lack of freedom.
Teni rite ena nyamlin menken gamati teni to mambo la teni control teni langne teni ta khorang la jamba ga teni ndma so jikshi ja mushi ja zene teni control ta ta kana la tabaran ding yores.
Even though their conditions of suffering are equal, though, the non-practitioner gives rise to a lot of anger, thinking, oh, this person is doing this and doing that and doing this to me, and they live in a state of anger.
Tani jamba tsogu teni ta nyamli yongkhanti teni chumkhang ka nanglan dingna teni khorang ka jala nyangji teni ding yores.
However, the other person, the practitioner, is able to live in prison, generating compassion for others. And this experience is one that many Tibetan lamas have had and practiced through. For example, Gachin Rinpoche, the Lama of your center, I really like him very much. The reason that I like or admire him is not connected with other qualities that I don't know about. In general, there are a lot of great High Lamas in Tibet. What moves me most about Gachin Rinpoche is his experience of practicing in prison. In the past, I had heard about Gachin Rinpoche's experience in prison and how he had practiced in this context.
And
then a few years ago, Gachin Rinpoche was in Taiwan. And I had a friend in Taiwan.
Teni te yigi thola teni pabjok jeni te tindi me te ngarang so chechok re teni Taiwan la yore kozola tindi labayenze.
And what I said to these friends in Taiwan is that I asked them to go before Gachun Rinpoche and to record, to put down all of his personal history in this regard.
Te jimsen kare rezina ten Gachun Rinpoche ngarang ka lama na mareze.
But why did I do this? Why did I ask them to do this? Gachun Rinpoche isn't my personal Lama.
And
we are not the students, say, of the same Lama. The reason was that this compassion meditation that we are looking at in this text, this method for using suffering to generate compassion, this is something that is often talked about, it's often taught, but Gachun Rinpoche actually put this into practice. And because in writing down Gachun Rinpoche's experience, others would be able to read it, and in reading it, understand that this is how we should go about practicing. This was the reason that I asked my friends to go to Gachun Rinpoche and record his history. There are a lot of Tibetan lamas. However, in terms of those who are still alive, lamas like Gachun Rinpoche are only very few in number. So when one experiences suffering oneself or hardship, then we are able to generate a special kind of compassion.
So when between yesterday and today, we've repeated many times that suffering is good and that we should accept it. But this is not to say that suffering is good for everyone. For a person who is not a practitioner, then suffering has no benefit whatsoever. It's better for them not to have any suffering at all. However, even though it is preferable not to have suffering, it still will happen. And once it has occurred, then regardless of whether one is a practitioner or not, without preparation, then we've got no way of dealing with it. So it's in terms of actual practitioners that we talk about suffering, bringing benefit and having positive aspects. It's certainly not in respect of everyone. Even though suffering isn't good for everyone, everyone has to experience suffering. Suffering is part of our lives. It's a part or one element of our human lives. 때 탑시요 말이지. 때 누구 말인?
It's just not possible to say that you don't want an element that is an inevitable part of human life.
든지 인디 강터 가서 되니 다 데라 당린 마치나 탑이요 말이지.
However, if we don't accept it, then we haven't got any other way of dealing with it.
당린 마치나 갈때 탑시지 요나다 가서 되니 다 당보니 당린 마치나 그래서.
If there were another method besides accepting suffering, then we could be justified in not accepting suffering and doing something else.
이나 당린 등을 맨큰 그 무슨도 가서 뭐 동시에 던시 담바요리 디나라 가서 왕샤쟁 그뭐 망본도 자급 그 전전라 모티니 매 망본도 되니 잠볼랑 그때니 식보 안 당오 그때니 뭐 던진도 되니 잠볼랑 그뭐 참마 공경 그때니 까적자 망본도 이나 코솔라 등을 언덕 상로 땅다 등을 나만나서 코솔라 요레스.
There is no single person who does not have suffering. Among the 7 billion people on the planet, there are many people who are powerful. There are presidents of nations. There are absolutely the most wealthy people, people of great fame. But do these people experience suffering? Yes, they do. They experience all different forms and kinds of suffering.
다든지 인디들이 등을 강타랑아서 되니다 네 냠스뇽고 그래. 다 냠스뇽고 살디 되니 다 등을 때 약보 되니 때 개와다 장속다 된디슬란 로트블라 되니 삼로 타나 되니 때 약보레지. 다 냠스뇽고 살디.
However, everyone does or necessarily experiences suffering. So once suffering has arisen, then if we can look upon it as good, as beneficial, as positive, then this is good.
되니 가서 응우보 찍라. 되니 응우보 찍라. 되니 따스르 망보요. 그래서 배나 가는 거 가서 되니 세컨드 가는 건디 잠니 파르타와다 교소 흥원네서 타와니 카카레스. 통야된 자 뭐도 묶어나람 통화돼 자 뭐도 와제.
In relation to any object, there are a variety of different perspectives. If we take this gold statue, for example, the way I look at it from behind, or the way I see it from behind, and the way you see it with your eyes looking from in front of the statue is completely different.
되니 니토니 마르타와든디 야르타와니랑 카가레스.
And the perspective from looking at it from above and looking at it from below is different too.
되니 된자 보즈큰 아초 베나 되니 샤와스직라 있나요? 되니 가서 삼로 땅스를 망본도.
And it's the same in relation to any particular action. There will be many different ways of thinking about it.
되니 옛날 가서 되니 냠린다 되니 약보매 차르디 되니 가서 되니 잠볼랑 뭐 창마 같더니 삼로 땅서 찍그나라 파 창만 로요 그래서 삼로 땅서 찍그나라 자오 찍마도 삼로 만보 땅탐고요 말해서.
However, without cultivating practice, then everyone in the world is converging on one way of thinking. And this one way of thinking is that of not wanting suffering. If suffering does take place, then the way everyone responds is to say that this was done to me by someone else, and they get angry. Besides, from this way of thinking, for the absolute vast majority of people, there is no alternative way of approaching the situation. And in continuing along this line of thinking, suffering only becomes greater and greater. And suffering, when it takes place in society, causes a great deal of trouble.
다 초소 삼로 땅스러 잠바스 제고도 손에 대송거요레스.
But it's at times like this that the Buddha advised that we need a different way of thinking.
Carternd Koran Kurchigres, Serkachigres, Rete Natsutini, Orni Yarata Ubanda Orese, Ta Sanji Sona, Tachusun Dini, Orni Yarata, Kitustupumashi, Tonita, Dini Dunita, Jamnitana, them Jamba Yore, Tatra Jamba Yore, Dini Yartana, Tangatun Dindi, Kumdinizumatum Tongomare, Koranga Shok Jamba Nita Tagore, Soni, Naso Sanji Naso Tindisungo Yores, Tabachimbo.
And what the Buddha taught us, and especially in the Mahayana teachings, is that in relation to this statue, there are many different perspectives. And rather than always looking at it from below and only seeing the base of the statue, we should also look at it from above, from in front, from behind, from different perspectives.
Teni samlo tansar jamba teni che jana, teni dumurti, teni soso rangla te pangayore.
And by adopting a different way of thinking, then the suffering is able to become of benefit to oneself.
The
suffering can be transformed into a source of benefit for us. And not just benefit to oneself, but through generating compassion brings benefit to others as well. So it is possible that through suffering, society could be made completely free of trouble and full of compassion. As to whether suffering takes us in a positive or a negative direction, however, it depends on our view of suffering or the way we think about it. And the difference in the views there are on suffering hinge on the presence or lack of practice. So it's said then that through practice, suffering is able to bring us much that is beneficial and good, bring much benefit to our minds.
Ni simchen sama latini dumur mesona samni koranga sim latini ga rewa ta sim latini momba o ndopa tindi tela zegres simchen tamchu dumur mesona samni to sim gna latini ga rewa tela teni nyangji zegores.
In Buddhism, compassion is understood as the aspiration or the desire or the hope that all beings be free from suffering.
Tindi ngacho namjin te dumur te tenita de partindi ngacho latini pamba yongken yana soso urjel latini nyarji tindi ke thumken tindi re gona teni namjin ngacho nyamlin tezi yo gondo.
In order, though, for suffering to be something that is able to benefit us or something that is able to help us generate compassion, it's necessary for us to have some foundation in practice.
Teni namgin ngasolan nyamlin tez mena teni dumur te tola yung kapse teni lamsang teni samlo tang gona te samlo tang tap kamarez ngaso ngama ga samlo tang lik tar to shi yung gores.
However, without some foundation in practice, then when suffering does occur, all of a sudden we will, or on the spontaneous spur of the moment, we won't be able to approach it in these constructive ways. We will revert to our old way of thinking.
Teni ngaso teni to pena ngaso mi parwazi na teni jitin de la teni ngaso te ngun zinser ta te tasr ta halipa hlabuz teni shege yoreze te le lauz ko thoni samlo tanga yoreze.
For an ordinary person, their way of looking at the world or understanding the world is extremely simplistic.
Pevjana ngaso mukatana teni jitin de teni tan dindi rawo ngaso tahta teni thong dewa rawo dindi zure yeng yore mukatin jin thong yore re te yena te ngaso teni jitin de dong thola teni zawani mareze.
For example, when we look with our two eyes at the world around us, it appears to be just the way it is. However, the true nature of the world, in fact, isn't just as it appears to our two eyes.
Then rapozuke pe na ngaso dewa yena yakbo yen samni dewa ngarang la yona ga yakbo yen sam dumur yena dikpure ngarang mergo samni tendi sam ngaso ngunzen de tendi jeta yena teni dong thola tendi yembingi payo manduzi.
So it is with happiness too. We think that happiness is good and I want it. Suffering is bad and I don't want it. However, in actual fact, it's not necessarily this way.
Teni nyarji zeyate ngaso mushikita semga nalata namtongramra mambo yongore samlongramra mambo yongore di nangni ha lepatini rentang yosate reze.
As for compassion, well, we as humans have many, many different thoughts of many different kinds. Compassion is the most valuable kind of thought among them all.
Teni mi janla teni nyarji yo chati mi janla phantok halepa chimbo yores.
And once one has compassion for others, then one one is able to benefit others.
Teni pe na ngaso bo gangjeng gatini ta tambala tini ha lepa gatini kwadran chimbo yenkhan gatini yagar ga pantada george adasha zeashi yore ta checho thama gatini ha ko yu jires.
In a very a teacher, a great teacher in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, who the teacher holds in a great debt of gratitude is Atisha. I'm sure that everyone has heard of him.
Teni korang la teni loma mambu yore tinani loma tsu te teni rumtumba zegres.
Atisha had many students. His main student, however, was Dromdumba.
Teni kapchigla teni George korang ka teni shak te myungan dus.
Chisi?
Lakpa nagan dus.
Oh. One day, Atisha's hand hurt a little bit.
Teni shak nyongi kapsa teni George teni rumtumba la ta korang ka shak te myungan dus nagan dus teni korang ka puz jabrok jisone teni son dus.
And Atisha said to his student Dromdumba, "Oh, my hand is hurting. Can you blow on it a little?"
Teni Dromdumba te teni George korang ka teni lommares.
But Dromdumba was the disciple of Atisha.
Teni tindi yindi teni Dromdumba ka zena te ngarang ka teni khe ka teni te shakla puz jamna te pantok chi yoki mari sone teni son yores.
And what Dromdumba said was, "Me blowing on your hand probably has no benefit whatsoever."
Teni George sone pantok leo teni kerang ka puz jabda pantok yore pantok yopi gimsen karesena kerang samba zambo yore te ti pantok kore son yores.
And Atisha said to him, "Of course you blowing on my hand has benefit. The reason for this is that you are a person of altruistic mind, so you blowing on my hand will be of benefit."
Teni shirtang Dromdumba ta shirtang teni pe haliba ka teni tokbam thombo teni reze.
Dromdumba was, in fact, a practitioner of high realization.
Ngaso bo ka shana teni phakpa sharez ka train teni son kores.
In Tibet, we say that he was the emanation of Chenresig.
다 팀마이나 가서 싫던 거 뭐지 나제 가서 미끼마 딘지지 나 코랑 그 질라티니 샴녀지 약보 용хэн 그 뭐이나 이 코랑 그미 멍볼라 판토거레.
But not just someone of his stature, any ordinary person, so long as they have given rise to compassion in their mind, is able to be of great benefit to others.
어디니 대단라보 어디니 샴녀지 때 소소 셈거나라 끼위 값스 때 소소 리당 셈니까 라티니 대화 어디니 대화당 깨봐 데 자침보 용거레.
In this way, when one gives rise or arouses compassion in one's own mind, one's physical body and one's mind experience great happiness.
Tini tinji yinding aso shamnyang jezeate takpa chimbo nala tini ha lepa tini rentang jak, rentang zhardam me panjawo, tinji tsigre tolang tinji reze.
So in the Tibetan tradition, loving kindness and compassion are regarded as extremely valuable, priceless even.
Tini ten jawi tini shamna nyarje te, tini nyamlin te ziyong kan ziyena tini ngatsu susu tola dumur yongwi kapsa ti dumur te la tenne tini yar ja chimbo yaran parent reze nyab shamnyangji.
So for this kind of loving kindness and compassion, once we have some foundation in practice, then when suffering takes place, we are able to amplify this loving kindness and compassion greatly.
Teni pena ngatsu teni sturging teni janka choma teni depser ti wandu shina. Teni country rezena teni choma nangla ngatsu zaya teni choma nangla teni chapkhang nangla yopi lutte de luguyores.
With the traditional way of planting vegetables or planting fields, human fertilizer would be taken from toilets and then scattered or spread on the fields.
Teni ti chapkhang nangla yopi lutte tarta ngatsu teni zengir teni lunjamata mambu zoyore ti chamale khorang gagres.
This natural human fertilizer compared to the chemical kinds of fertilizers that we have these days is much better.
Teni chapkhang nangla yopi lutti teni ngatsu lotok yachimbo cheatang teni yanka ga sala teni nopa mepa teni zres.
The human fertilizer that comes from toilets has the capacity to make crops grow big and also not cause any harm to the earth.
Teni sanji chumdende teni takpa chimbo nangla teni songwarze ngatsu nyomong bate lut japore soni teni songwarze nyomong bate lut japore son.
And the Buddha said in the Mahayana teachings that our afflictions are just like fertilizer.
Teni kandi nyomong bate lut japo kandi rezena teni lut jangka nangla teni lugna teni lotok peya po teni kegreze karti lut mena matsu saga nangla teni lotok tabna lotok ti yapo teni kethap kamareze.
And the reason that he said this was that fertilizer has the ability to make our crops grow abundantly. Without fertilizer, then even if we planted the crops, they wouldn't come to anything.
Teni tenti yendi teni ngaso teni dumur yenna perna teni dumur yenna teni nyomong baga teni shokchigre ta li sem ko nyomong ba de mare ta yenna sem ko nyomong ba tena yore ta teni nyokta ze gogmund dumur yenna teni ta ngaso teni nyomong ba re ti yendi teni ti la teni ta ngaso teni de gewa otoso tamje po lotok lalla teni lotok kiwa ndawo shini teni dumur la teni ngaso nyamlin andi shamdang nyarji toso yar perium goreze.
So suffering itself is a form of affliction, but through suffering we are able to gain much that is positive, like great crops. Through suffering we are able to generate loving kindness and compassion.
Teni chapkhang nang lat partana tini tsokba tini yoreta yena lotok kina ta lotok ki gona tini khorang met morongwa tini jes.
So even though human fertilizer from the bathroom is rather dirty in terms of making crops grow well, it is something that is indispensable.
Then rawo tini dungur yenna tini dungur korang shulogni partana tini ngaso samaga tini mundopa tangdelen mundopa o tindi jesi yenna tini dungur la tini shamdang nya jeta gewa mambo yar comparison rore.
And it's the same with suffering too. Even though looking at it superficially, suffering is something that no one willingly wants to take on. Through suffering, it is possible for us to generate much that is positive, including compassion and so forth. However, within all this is a fundamental point.
And
this is that in ordinary circumstances, we need to understand the proper way of thinking about it. And need some amount of actual practice, experience in relation to suffering. If we have both of these things, then when suffering arises, immediately we will be able to advance our loving kindness and compassion. So in thinking about this way, if when suffering does take place, we don't regard it as bad. Even though the feeling may be unpleasant, we appreciate that through this suffering, we are able to improve ourselves and progress in our practice, and on this basis, accept the suffering.
Ta tindi tini yarji njowa tini shebmarguare te mayin nayang ngaso pe na tini mi jang ngatola dungur yongya te pe na mukum thongwa dawo longin yinare lorji yinna te so mukum thongwa ta yana tini nawa gowa tindi yongna te so ya ngaso shebnyang yar kiwa la phanto yore.
So it's not just when suffering actually takes place on our person that we are able to advance our compassion, but also when we observe suffering in other people, when we see suffering with our own eyes, even if we see suffering in movies, etc. Also when we hear with our ears others suffering, these are also ways or opportunities to advance our compassion.
주 배는 탑주 되니 망측 야즈나 쉐신 어떤지 그 착망보 제로 산다고 쉐신지나 거가 쉐신 되니 착 못삿 착자르 지르게 어떤지 그 되니 저 롱인이 나래 뜻소 거라테 맞좀 통이 값이 하나 심진 쪽착 던조 되니 소진다고 되니 뜻소라 When
we watch films that are extremely bloody and murderous, violent, or perhaps see animals behaving violently, many of us don't dare to look at the images on the screen. Even though we may fear the images, as practitioners, we need to look at these images. Covering our eyes so as not to see what is taking place has no benefit at all. These things are in reality taking place, and not looking at them is of no benefit. But in looking with our eyes, we need to think in a particular way. the way that we need to think is in accordance with the ways of practice in the Mahayana tradition.
어디 삼로티 타나 테니 가츠질라 샴당 냐르제타 참마 림베 용거레스.
And if we're able to think in this way, then gradually, step by step, our loving kindness and our compassion will increase.
어디니 티 당아 저것도 등물라 테니 다 따서 득바티레스.
So what we've just covered now is point 6 in terms of how to look upon suffering. So we've now reached point number 7, the last one, that is the letter G on page 11.
Teni mi mambo mi jan sola teni dengur mena sam ta ngarang la yona teni te kyomdu ta ngarang la yona chakandu mi jan la dengur mena sam do teni do tela dawe jan chi je gare teni te dengur la teni te gom gare.
So this last point is using suffering to cherish others more than oneself. And here we think when suffering takes place, we think, well, I can accept this suffering, I'm able to deal with it, but many people are not able to. And so we give rise to the wish that they not have to undergo this suffering. Even though we ourselves may be okay, we may be able to deal with it, it's not necessarily that way for others. And so this wish then is what we, or perspective is what we refer to as cherishing others more than ourselves.
Teni samluk tongser jambas chikde kangrezena teni perna tari ngarang teni ta nat yenanda dengur kangyonanda ngarang dendi dengur mambo yongo yimseng kangrezena ngarang rang teni rang chipr zong semchin jan teni chipr mawzong o ngarang de karchimbo yembab zong ti mo jambatso karchongshong yembar zong ne dendi ga tawa shinsholo patela teni mergewa mambo sak tela teni da ngarang tari teni dungur yonga jimsen te tere samgo rez.
Or an alternative way of thinking here would be when sickness or other kinds of suffering befall oneself, to think that the reason this is taking place is because of our habit of self-cherishing, of regarding oneself as important and not cherishing others, not regarding them as important. And because of this incorrect view, we have in the past accumulated a lot of, or committed a great deal of unvirtuous actions, and this has led to our suffering. So this is an alternative way of thinking.
Teni ta panchuni ngarang rang teni ta dendi taro mentni teni ngarang rang de karchimbo yen teni samna ngarang dengur mentni yongore dendi yendi ta panchuni teni ngarang simchin jan namla teni karchinda jan nam teni chigo und jan namla gargo und ngarang rangla teni ta tindi karchin teni znyang mendu ngarang rang karchin zona teni dengur samatele yongore karti ngarang rang kar chongchong rawo shi mo jamba cho kar chimbo shi na tela tini dewa yongore tendi yendi ti ta phanchni ngarang gatini ta dawe janchi gomgo ndu sambi tini te samlo te tang shina te so dungur thola yong kaps tendi samlo tang thub gare.
So we need to resolve that from here on in. If we continue to cherish oneself as we have done in the past, then our suffering will only continue. So because of this, from now onwards, we will no longer regard ourselves as so important and cherish ourselves. We will begin from this point onwards to cherish others and regard them as important. Failing to do this will only lead to more suffering, whereas cherishing others and regarding them as important will lead to happiness. So we need to meditate on this way of thinking, and if we are able to familiarize ourselves with it somewhat, then when we encounter encounter suffering, we will be able to think in this way of cherishing others more than ourselves.
Then ngacho tini samlo tangsar te kandi rezena ngacho mi chama ga samlo tangsar te kandi rezena tini yakpo tang demo tang deske taso chama gang yona yakpo chama ngarang rang go samne te sam go yores.
The way that everyone thinks is that all that is good, happy, pleasant, I need to have, I want to have. This is how everyone thinks.
Ta pe jana ngacho tini te khamba shik nangla tini mo chitan ban rawo tini zi yona tini ti nani ta mo chi tini ta yana sem go tola dungur yana lipo go tola dungur tini yong go ndu o ti yong go ndu ta choso mo chi nani sila tini yong go re sila yong ji yen tini zena tini mo changma ga zena da ngarang la tini dungur mo go ngarang la yong ji men ngarang yong na mendo tini ze gre.
Let's just say that in one house there were 10 people, and of these 10 people, one person had to undergo suffering, whether of a physical or a psychological kind. Well, if the 10 people were asked, who of you is going to step up to this, everyone would say, not me, I don't want that suffering.
Tindi indi tini to ta nga so samlo to tindi reason namgin tini ta moschila tini dungmur yong ko na mo jibo di sama nga dungmur te yong go me ngarang dungmur mendo jini tindi zenken jama to nga dungmur te yong na ga ndu ta mo jamba gbo de la dungmur me na ta ngarang chibo dungmur yong na te kyo mendo tindi samlo yo mare.
So this is the way that everyone habitually thinks. If there is one person who has to take the suffering, then everybody wishes that it not be themselves. There is no one who says, well, yes, okay, I'll take it, it's fine, I don't mind if the others don't have it, I'll take it on. This way of thinking doesn't happen. There's a story from Tibet. This story is related to history of the past. In Tibet, there were boats fashioned from yak skin that were used to cross big rivers. And in Tibetan areas, in Tibet, there are many great rivers such as the Yangtze and other big rivers. Everyone knows about this. Tini zhito so tamchi po tam shirtang nga so mangso ko tini ti pesho tanga ga zhito so sama tini tabde po tini ayak ko ga zo tini tabde po indi tini te denjak halipa yo maris. Because these boats that ordinary people used to cross the river were just very crudely constructed, they weren't very safe. Tini kapchik tini makashi tini zhigo nangla tini ndugni ayak ko ga zhigo nangla tini ndugni rodi tini chi tini chichenbu tini kila tini thong kapsu tini zhigo kalwa ga zini ta nga so zhigo nangla mo mang chen do. One day when everyone was sitting inside such a boat, they got to the middle of the river, and the person who was steering the boat, the oarsman, said to everyone, "We have too many people in the boat." And he said to them, look, the boat's too heavy, it's going to sink. If there's anyone among you who knows how to swim, then please jump out and swim. But there wasn't anyone among the passengers who knew how to swim. Yana kyocho nangla te kajik mostik tini chanangla chip ta cheker mashida shenro ore ta shina tabshi yo mare tanduk zendu. The oarsman said to them, well, either I jump out of the boat and swim, I know how to swim, so I wouldn't die, or either one of you jumps into the water and swims. Of course, if you don't know how to swim, then you'll die, but we can't do anything about it.
Tenita musik zeni teni ota mus jambandaso sama teni par chog parola teni tarsona tati yakbondu teni ngarang chiche shigme ta yina teni ta shina teni tapshimenduk zeni te korang chinang la teni jebarez.
Anyway, one of the passengers stood up and said, if everyone else reaches safely the other shore, then that's enough. I'll jump out of the boat, even though I don't know how to swim. I'll die. Never mind, I'll do it.
어떠니 mus jamba sama chi parola te tarsong te mute shosongorez.
And the other passengers all reached the other shore, but the person who jumped out died.
Teni ngacho namgin soso rang la ti jwate gurgurez ta ngarang teni dawozala thuksona teni ngarang chinang la chepsa reda kandi shisa re samne soso rang la jwate gurgurez.
We need to often put this kind of question to ourselves. What would we do in such a circumstance? What would we do if there was such a situation where someone had to jump out of the boat? What would you do? 네? Oh, lasse. Oh, yeah. Okay. What everyone would say is, well, I wouldn't jump out of the boat because I've got so much to do. There's still so much of my home I've got to do, so much work.
Oh, yeah. That tindi na ngacho tindi laglin la tindi thap kumari ta yena sem ko thola kale jondur che thap ta go rez.
So even though we might not be able to put it into or practice, it's important for us to slowly train at the level of our minds. Our lack of willingness in this situation is due to a lack of compassion.
Tene ngacho namjin tene ta ngarang la nyarji yo ndawo tindi samgyo ta yena tindi nangak ngune tani thuyona tidi ngune nyarji yo ta me tene ha ko yong kres.
Even though we might ordinarily think that we are persons with compassion, when a situation like this really arises, then we truly understand whether we have compassion or not.
Tene te sem ko tola te jongdur shi ne te nyamnim shi tamna te kale musse na te nyarji ya poche thamkore daw ya chi ze te o ta mo jamba cho thar sona te ga ndag da ngarang shi sona te kyome sambanrawo tindi go samlo ki thamkore ji jongdur ya poche tamna.
However, through practicing well and training properly, it's possible for anyone to give rise or to cultivate compassion, to strongly cultivate a cherishing of others more than themselves, a willingness to see others saved, and allow oneself to die. This is something that everyone can achieve through training in compassion.
Teni dumur teso teni soso teni thola yongi kaps teni chorwa teni dumur ko chora chimbo teni yongi kaps teni tendi ko tola teni samlo teni tana teni namjin le o teni halipa teni nipa chimbo yores.
So when suffering comes upon oneself, and particularly when there's a very strong feeling of suffering, then the capacity to generate this quality of thought or experience is more powerful than in ordinary circumstances.
Teni ending aso teni dagli janchi ba zewi teni samlo te nga chun roa mir ko teni samlo yongzu khona ne teni chi ralap chi shu derez.
Among all of human thought and all ideas of humanity, that of cherishing others more than oneself is the most great and mighty.
Tendi samlo teni lap chimbo tini samlo rintang na damba teyang tini dumur la tini teni sosorang dumur la teni teni ke thab gareze ke gareze.
And this mighty thought, this valuable thought, is one that we are able to give rise to and cultivate through the experience of suffering.
Ta tendi ngi tini nga so samlo jibko tang di tini ta dumur te la yang ta sik te tendi dupu mundu te na ngarang rang nyamlin te chu shi ni tini samlo te chu tang shina dumur ndi te ngarang la tini ta phamba mambo tini te drop ko ndu samni te tendi samdi tini nga so dumur te la yinda manda nga dumur mo go dumur te dupo re samba go samlo te tini mepa reyong gres.
So if we are able to think very carefully in this kind of way, then we will come around to appreciating that suffering is not completely bad, that if we are able to look upon it in a certain way and to practice with it, then suffering is capable of bringing us many, many benefits. And in recognizing this, then the notion or the idea that suffering is bad and we shouldn't have it can be destroyed.
Tati nga chu tari dumur la tini yondan tawazin dina la tini dun goni tini sha jangdu tini te mai na so sorang ndang jamna tini dumur te nga chu samlo yak potong shina dumur la tini nga chu lan di dumbo ti machat par tarong dumur nga chu la yang phamba mangbu yang tini yungore.
So we've just covered now 7 positive qualities associated with suffering. However, if you think about it yourselves, and please do think about it yourselves, you'll discover that the positive qualities of suffering are not confined to these 7 only. There are many, many positive qualities. So Khenpo is now going to give a reading transmission. The transmission is for Khenpo is going to continue reading the next verse. Suffering took us to covered what we had just learned, the 7 positive qualities of suffering, and finished at the bottom of the first paragraph on page 13. So among all of this is one thing that we need to understand.
ta dumur te dumur shona yang tini dupu mare samni tini ta sambat tini ta jimsun to so jimsun dung go ne nga chu ti sha char songze.
So of the content that we've just covered, the main content was 7 different reasons why we can regard suffering as not bad.
Tani tanga so shigupa garche chishu chiti kangrezina shetanga so tini dumurte ta yondan tindi yore samba chamzuk ndruk yo mares.
But of most importance for us to grasp is that it's not sufficient just to know in theory that suffering has these various different positive qualities.
Ta kang gogrezina pena nat nawanda so la nat nawanda tindi zalam chonna teni samlo tane ta nachi tini dumur te la teni teni ta ngarang tari tini gewa drup chokore nyarje gom chokore teni dagwe jangchi re so chama tini gibjur ta namjin tini ngarang ga tini drup mathapat teni ga tini gewa za tini drup thap kore ta korkab yagbo ta di shong song samni tini natte la tini gawa yo go nduse gapsda yo go nduse.
What we do need to do is when we say experience the pain of sickness, recognize that through this suffering it is possible for us to do positive action, generate compassion, cherish others more than ourselves. In sum, we need to recognize this suffering as an opportunity for spiritual practice, an opportunity for cultivating virtue, one that we don't have in ordinary circumstances. And on this basis, develop an appreciation or a liking, a welcoming of suffering.
Teni 대당 라오시니 teni ta 등을 강당 강소소라 용나 다 따리 약보 숑숑 teni 등을들라 teni 다 나랑가 teni 용들 약보즈 시초건도 teni 인디 등을들라 teni 다 나랑 야르지 teni 조ore 나랑 야르지 약보 용거래 삼네 teni 가르공도 셈라 가와요 공도즈.
And in the same way, when any kind of suffering comes upon us, we should think, oh, good, through this suffering, I can train, I can practice, and in so doing, improve myself. And in thinking in this way, give rise to liking for suffering.
Tani ngacho tani mi tani te samlo zeyate pe kemsete samlo tansar chonchong ze yabjir mabjir shina tani ti ngacho samlo kapshokla tani ngerwa chimbo tongondoze.
So it's very strange how even a small kind of thought or a small way of thinking is possible of changing our direction completely.
Perna namtrga tani shokpa ga thola tani namtrga tani shokpa la tani jablokla tani te tani yar chakjeta mar tani doya tani te zendwa tada yana namtrga jigma ga thola tani parkour circuit te shejindu te nila tani namtr yanro mandro ta pandro sdo kapshokzo de ti chonjun jege yore je changma go gre.
It's just like airplane wings. If the tip of the wing is slightly pointing up or pointing down, or the tail of the airplane, depending on what direction it moves in, this completely controls how the airplane flies, whether it goes left or right or up or down. This is something that everyone knows about. 강이나 등으로나 담보 셈거나라 되니 마케 바요니 되니 요비 갑데라 되니 든지 그 삼로탄에 삼로탄서때 지르추시잖아 이 람성 되니 셈거나라 가와요니 다키온 거면도 삼니 되니 람성 가와 되니 용 탑거레즈. And in the same way, when we say get sick and that feeling of unpleasantness or not liking the sickness starts to arise, if at this point we're just able to make a tiny little change in our way of thinking, then immediately we give rise to happiness. We feel it's okay, it's no problem, and a feeling of liking the sickness happens.
Teni tinjiga teni samlo tansara jamba te la ngaso lojong che go reze ngaso ta namgin mi chama ga samlo tansara te ngaso lojong che go mar chama teni samgo yore sozu ndi samlo tansara jamba zik thola te zndang jabni lojong che na teni ti samlo tansara ta te ngaso te semga na la ngirwa chimbo tong tab gres.
So we really need to study these different or other alternative ways of thinking. We don't need to study the way of thinking that is how everyone else thinks, how everyone normally thinks. What we do need to turn our attention to is different ways of thinking. And it's through familiarizing ourselves with these or it's these ways of thinking that are able to exert significant change in our lives.
Teni semnala teni gawate yung charti semganala teni gawate yung charti teni ti gawate la teni ngaso teni lipo thola pe na nawanda zina lipo thola yopi teni chorwate yang timar nonro ndozi timar ngu nombada o teni shekrezi ti semna gawati lipo thoko chorwate mar chechong landro re.
And once we give rise to a feeling of liking or happiness in our mind, then this feeling is able to affect our physical sensation of suffering and actually have the effect of suppressing or reducing the physical suffering.
Teni perna lipo thola teni nat navi kapsa teni semnang la teni dengar sone ta ngarang ka semda teni ngarang ka nat teni dugpo samne tenji mambo samna teni lipo thoko nat jedik do yores.
If when we experience physical pain or suffering, our mind also thinks, oh, I'm suffering, oh, how bad, then our physical suffering only becomes greater.
Tindi indi ngaso ti kapsa samlo te kayang bon rawo shi tini dungur tini tandalak tini ngarang yakpo yung gore sambi gawa te yot sati titi semnang la yopi dungur ta ti me lenro ta lipo dungur yang tini chechong ro gore ta lipo dungur tsawa ni me ro gore zena tsawa ni me thak kumar ta yena mar chechong ro yore.
If at this point we're able to think in a more open or open-minded way that this suffering is actually good for me and to like the suffering, then it is actually possible for us to make our mental suffering disappear. And the disappearance of our mental suffering has the effect of reducing our physical suffering, perhaps not making it disappear completely, but certainly diminishing it.
Tati indi ndi kapsa tini ngasola goyang ngomatak kang go yoresina tini dungur la gawi samba o tate go yores.
At times like this, what we need the most is a liking of suffering.
Tini dungur la gawi samba tak kandi goni yong go yoresina tari ngaso kong la tini dungur la yondan diri yorese tini shok dun gutoni shasonga tetso la samlo tangona o ta yondan diri mambo yoti te ngarang la dungur yona yakbore samne tini gawi lo to tini keong gores.
So where do we get this liking of suffering from? Well, as we covered already, we have the 7 positive qualities associated with suffering. And by thinking about these different positive qualities, we can appreciate that, well, if there are so many qualities associated with suffering, then it's no problem if suffering happens, and indeed one likes suffering, is able to like suffering, give rise to the thought of liking suffering.
That tindi indi tini tambo ngaso di gomni tindi shego ri tini thansam zena di tap namjin ngaso tin chowa na la tini komshok som la tini sorwan demni o ta ngarang la dungur kang yona ngarang ga dungur ti so thamchi po par tini lamjing or girzina ta dungur ti so par tini ta dewa o tindi ti nyamlin ngaso kongla shede ti nyamlin ti yapo zo tini shi thabar tini komshok som go shinji lao samne tindi go tini sondip she go ndzi tambu kor la kapsa.
So we need to meditate in this way or on these thoughts, and in general make prayers to the 3 objects of refuge, that we may be able to transform our suffering into and make a prayer that we are able to transform our suffering effectively into our path of practice.
Tani nyamling ka thola tini ngaso chu yarji te tsishong tsarwi jini tani sorwa depi kapsa yang sor dep kaka she go ndozi te kapsa tini ta komshok somla tani ta ngarang la tini dumur te tsa thong shokse tini ta ngarang la komshok som yin nandra tini soso chushkyong yin nandra teso korte la o ta ngarang la dumur te tsa thong shokse teni dumur te la tini yongdur shi tapkandak teni ngarang dumur te tsa yung go zini tini ga tini molum jab go rezit tezi nipa yopi kapsa.
And after we have achieved some progress or ability in relation to our practice, then we need to make a different kind of prayer. We need to pray to the three jewels or to our Dharma protector to please send us a bit of suffering. Please send me a bit of suffering. Through suffering, I can do training. And so at this point, once we have a little bit of progress in our practice, we make this different kind of prayer.
Tindi goni nyamlin she gori tindi gombi kapsi na tini tambo kaps ta nga so teze tin samlan de kindawo tindi she go ndu ta samlan ni ma khashi tindi ndu khomna pe yangbore karte ma khomna nga su ni ma re la tini chicho chingdawo tindi z ka na la tini mar go mar gyamni tini so so chipo ndgni tini nda so ton la samni sem ga na la yang yang du jondr she go re.
At the beginning of our practice, it is preferable to practice or to meditate in seclusion. A few days would be best, but if we're not able to do this, then setting aside an hour each day where we close the door and sit down by ourselves and contemplate in this way is very good.
Te nga so nyamlin kang ina te rezi tangbo nga so te nyamlin to shipi kapsa jongzu teni motang par rewa mepapshi mamta ina nga so chisu kashi ga nangla teni motang rewa mepapshi ne go jamni teni gumni teni rishi go re ma to pata tangbo ni teni jongdar z mena nga so nyamlin yapo jilla chethap ko mandu.
It's actually the same in relation to any kind of practice. In the initial stages, we should try to separate ourselves from others, even if it's only for a few hours, to go into a space with a closed door and meditate by ourselves. If we don't practice in this way to begin with, then it isn't possible for us to train our minds or habituate our minds to these things.
Tani per na tani lister ba tani tani ta jarshi thola tani jon dhandr ka na la jinkhen ka tani lister ba tani yena tambo khorang ka tani ta yen rambo chila tani ta tani jondr tani mambo tani she gondo was te tang daure.
It's the same just with an athlete in the international arena. Such an athlete needs to train for a very long time.
Tani tambo jondr chini tani she thari jini tani tazo tani dhamdr ka na la jigna jondr yakpo shini dhamdr ka na la jigna tani korang ka ser ka takmalin thap ko yore.
It's only after training for a long period of time that the athlete actually enters into a competition, takes part in a competition, and is able to win a gold medal. However, if the athlete just takes part in a competition with no training whatsoever, then they won't obtain any result.
Ta maran samra pota yana tindi shini go mar jam ni chipo tindi gom guman koran soa na la droni gom gyen zeni tindi zen kan mambo ndugzi.
These days there are a lot of people who say or don't wish to practice in a retreat or secluded situation with a closed door. They say, I'm going to meditate in everyday life.
Te jondr machina tambu ni soa na la droni tindi koran ka te
however, without some kind of prior training, then it doesn't work to go straight into everyday life and to think one can practice. It's the same with writing letters or writing calligraphy. We have to practice first for a long time before we're able to write beautifully. If I say, well, I'm not going to practice at all, it's a waste of time, and just go and scribble out some letters, they won't be very nice.
대단다 보레지.
It's like this.
되니 다른 찍듯이 때 베나들이 가서 네 먹지거 되니 짝다 좀큰 찍어. 되니 짝다지 되니 좀 되우지. 짝다 먹서 그 짝다 좀 되우지. 되니 짝다 대강아지나 다 가서 남긴 가서 짝다 체르나 되니 예 쇼글란로 고난 된지 거고 되우지. 어야. 되니 요 쇼글란로 고나단 된지 거고 그래와지 남긴이나.
So there was a person who designed a special bike. It was different to ordinary bikes. Ordinary bikes, when we want to turn right, we turn the handlebar right. And when we want to turn left, we turn the handlebar left.
Teni koranga chakta gandhi zunduzena teni ndosholan ro gona ndinji korung gonken. Tin ndosholan ro gona But
the bike that he made was one where you had to turn in the opposite direction than the one you wanted to go. So if you wanted to turn left, you had to turn right and vice versa. Of course, in theory, this is completely easy to understand. Within 1 minute, we get that if you want to go left, you turn right and so forth. However, no one has actual practice of this. And so, because no one had any practice, they would get on the bike and after a few meters would fall off. Has anyone seen a bike like this? If anyone has, please raise your hand. Have you ridden a bike like this before?
I have tried a semi-truck, 18-wheelers. And when you're backing up, not to turn to the opposite side, And the first time you try to drive an 18-wheeler, a semi, you make my mistake, you have to practice, take a school, then you learn how to back up wherever you want. So it's not a bike, but it's similar.
Teni ko the jakta tenra was teni shema myong ine yong ko de long ko kya chebujik teni dang yong teni tin rabu re teni pap teni shit teni pa teni khot good na teni yang teni da nyodu mambo teni go gore rabu re se
oh yeah tate teni this jakta ti thoni teni nga so ha ko gore teni dangbo korang ge sim si sha na ti sigre se te mi si ji yo ma re oh ta te titola ti misia tindi ripin ti nyokta jiji yo ma lamsang ha kon ro re ta ina khona ko kum tindi yo ma re te ma kum bi jimsin ji ti sakta de jon nin ro gonan ro thap kum de sakta yak bu jon shin ke chama long ro de.
So it's this way with this bike. Even though we understand fully in theory how it works, there's absolutely nothing that we don't understand about how it should be steered, because no one has any familiarity with actually riding it in practice. Then even good cyclists riding this kind of bicycle would fall off.
Tindi indi tini ngaso yinda manda tambo gum gore yapon gum gore mato gum ma gum na ngaso.
So that's why it's very important that in the beginning we meditate properly, we familiarize ourselves properly. It's only then that we're actually able to implement it in practice.
Nyamlinda so mambos nyamlinchina tini the sosolam drive yak bothong ko mandu sambanda tindi yongore mamambola tsama tini kum mathapi gimsen jire.
There are many people who say that in practice, with their practice, they've not seen good results and so forth. And the reason for this is that they have not familiarized themselves properly. So if our situation or circumstances are good and we have lots of time, then it is certainly favorable to practice, to meditate for a long time. However, if we don't have these circumstances, then it's fine for us to set aside 1 hour a day or something like this to meditate.
어디 다른 거 가지고 차트 때에